Okay, so we should be live right now. We are recording. I see the little icon. So welcome everybody to July DevOps Toronto. Finally got some warmth, finally got some sun here. I hope it's pleasant where you are, wherever you're joining us from. Everybody joining us from either Toronto or elsewhere, jump in the chat, let us know where you're coming from. It's always great to see where everyone is reaching us from and where we're reaching. And I will get right to introducing things, and we'll get right to our wonderful speaker today. I got to start out by thanking sponsors. And so CloudBees is a recent sponsor of ours, very much appreciated. Everybody should know who they are by now, but if you don't, go look them up. They are big, heavy hitters in the space, very big in the end-to-end DevOps space. So very important these days as we look to the edges of what's beyond DevOps and everything that's involved in DevOps. And they are running DevOps World, which is happening September 28th to 30th. So look out for that. You can go to devopsworld.com and sign up for news and updates to make sure that you don't miss anything. But registration is open as of June, so you can grab a spot and you won't miss any news. And it's free, of course, online. And our longtime BFFs of the meetup, JFrog, have been with us for ages now and continue to be a wonderful supporter of their community. So very much appreciate their participation and contribution here. And plug for myself, because I have everyone's attention. Go check out visible.io/flow engineering if you haven't. It's totally free. There's not even any kind of lead capture on it. It's just an ebook that I would love any feedback on if you're interested in working better with your teams, and whether that's your own team or across teams. It's all about online visual collaboration. So I would love for you to check it out and let me know what you think. And with that, I'm going to introduce and then hand off to Saman, who's joining us from NexJ. He is a infrastructure architect and here to share with us his experiences with internal platform teams, which is a very hot topic these days. Really huge contributing factor to unlocking velocity and high performance in product teams by allowing them to kind of leverage common tooling without going and tapping somebody on the shoulder or filing a ticket, hopefully. So very interested to hear more about that from Saman. But with that, oh, I always have one more thing that I forget, because I get here and then I forget to talk about next month. So teaser for next month, we are going to be keeping the conversation on developer self-service and internal resources such as platforms going with a different perspective from Caspar. So I love that we can line these up and have a series of talks so that we get multiple different perspectives. Maybe something fits your organization a little bit better, or something is a little bit more familiar to you and more useful. But I love that we can have these opportunities to share different perspectives on things that are so important, or I think are so important, like internal platform teams. So very much looking forward to that. But with that, I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to hand off to Saman and let him take over and guide us through his presentation.
Thank you. Okay, going to share the screen. Okay, hope everyone can see my screen.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so going to talk about the internal platform teams, and I tried my best to have a good introduction, because I see these days many people maybe they have some misconceptions about it, or maybe they have the concept is just new for them. So this one acts as an introduction for the next talk next month from a great guy that basically they are one of the leaders in this area. Okay. Firstly, let's talk about the content, what we are going to talk about in here. First of all, what is internal platform team and what do we mean by it? What it is not actually, that's more important. How we implemented it, what challenges we had, and then we are going to talk about two other examples about other companies, how they have implemented it, and we are going to share some resources. If you want to get kind of most value out of this talk, I think these are the prerequisites to that one. First of all, you need to have some kind of burning desire to generate more value in your company, because this thing is really hard and it takes about 12 to 18 months to kind of like settle in the company. That's my experience. Maybe other people can do it in a shorter time, but like it takes good amount of energy, talking, and also time. Second one, having some kind of experience knowing about working with DevOps, SRE, or at least know how their like work is going, or like how they are like creating the tickets, how they are answering, what is the workflow in there. And the last one, I highly suggest reading a very short article on team topologies, or seeing some videos, or even like reading the book about like team topologies. So here is the kind of DevOps DevOps topologies. This website is kind of, this weblog actually is made out of that team topologies book, exactly for the DevOps teams. Also, I have made videos based on those two, based on that weblog. There are two videos on the subject, so you can kind of like get into my channel on YouTube and see the videos. Okay, what is internal platform team? So internal platform team, we have different meanings for it. So this is our experience. Our experience is that we are going to build some kind of internal workflows and tooling. So how it's going to be different from like the previous way of doing it is that in the previous way, the SRE team or the DevOps team, they were like operating those toolings. In this new way of doing the things, it's like the developers will do self-service with those toolings. On the next talk, the person is going to exactly talk about this one, that is internal developer platforms or IDPs. The next one is like we are doing our best to enable the self-service across organization. Probably we can say DevOps is the first one to start, but I'm seeing the movement is much bigger than just having the DevOps. It's going to kind of encapsulate IT teams or other teams also in the organization. And the other one is shielding the devs from the evolving complexity inside the ops and DevOps and all those things. So 10 years back, we didn't have Kubernetes, but today we have Kubernetes. And you know, like if a developer wants to know about these things, it's like a lot of complexity for them. We want to kind of reduce that complexity and give them kind of known or like something that is easy to play with. And then the SRE and DevOps team, they're going to go in and take care of all those complexities that they are relying on there. And there is a goal in there, and that is smooth development and deployment experience for everybody that is involved. So if you're in an organization that is big enough, you'll know that it's not just developers that they are stakeholders. Now you have dev managers, you have IT, you have marketing, you have sales. So everybody is going to kind of enjoy benefits of having this kind of like streamlined platform teams. And most of all, like the value is going to be, you're going to deliver the code and the features much faster. So what is not internal platform team, or actually what we don't do? First of all, we completely believe in ops. We believe we need an ops team to take care of the production. At least in our organization, we believe in that one. Those people, they have a good body of knowledge. So it's not internal platform team's job to go in there and kind of take care of those like maintaining of the systems. That's ops task. We are not dev managers or managers of any kind that is going to approve any kind of like quality of the code or quality of the practice. We are not that one. We are just the people that they are building this bridge that brings the code from the computer of the user or the developer to the monitor of the end user, or even like to the companies, or even packaging the code. So that's our main job. So here, maybe you can see the bridge. We are building this bridge. Sometimes we are maintaining it, but most of the time the maintenance is by the ops. We are just focusing on building this one and sometimes bringing in the practice. Even in different companies, bringing in the practice is like other teams' job. We have implemented it in our company in a way that like it's internal platform team. We are going to talk about this in the next slides. And what is the trend adoption rate in here? Internal platform teams was introduced about year 2017 or something like that. We were seeing that pattern that some companies have, like they're using it. But now, like in the State of DevOps report by Puppet in 2020, it was one of the main themes that like, let's do internal platform teams. Like a lot of big players and also like high performers, they're adopting it and they're pretty much enjoying the benefits. So you can see in here, like 48% of high performers, they have some kind of internal platform team. And you can see the way that we go to low performers is also the rate goes down. These two ones, they are from different source also. These are Technology Radar of ThoughtWorks. You can see that mainly these like, there are two main trends associated with this one. The first one is like platform engineering product teams. That is like what we are talking about. And the second one is applying product management to internal platform teams. Or basically we can say, treat internal platform teams like you're treating your software development teams. It's like they're producing some kind of product for the end user. That is, the end user here is like the other developers and managers or QA in the company. There's also another thing that I wanted to point out in here. I want to ask you a question. Do you see any pattern in here? Like in the DevOps practices, now we are having internal platform teams. There's another thing that we are having, and that is GitOps. I can say that the pattern in here is that it seems that organizations, they want to bring this DevOps that was something foreign to them. They want to bring to a kind of like a shape that they know how to handle or work with. So they have brought like GitOps so that everybody in the organization can work actually with the infrastructure. And now they are implementing this one, internal platform teams plus product management, so that they can treat with a known model of like product engineering. So I think that's a good one. That's less overhead for the management and also faster shipment of the code. And next topic, how we implemented it. First of all, this is the way that we are implementing the internal platform team. This is like the structure that you can see. That's like a core of a team that is like creating those toolings, creating those documents. We are creating the documents, workshops, videos to educate the domain experts how to work with the internal platform team or internal platforms, or even like the tooling or other like infrastructure software. And also we have a product manager. So the product manager is specifically for the internal platform team. And here you can see FedEx by FedEx, like different colors of FedEx. By here, I don't mean FedEx, I mean like different domains of the company, like different teams of the company. One of them can be like dev, the other one can be ops, the other one can be QA. So we have a product manager going in, talking with them and gaining like insight about how they work. And then we go and kind of facilitate their job. This is actually our first version. We are going to get to the next version soon. We have had some challenges with it. First of all, it's like about like standards vs freedom. You know that if you are going to implement the standards, you are going to have like a lot of velocity. We are going to have good maintainability. But there is another thing, you are going to kind of lose the freedom. Here you are seeing the ugly triangle of engineering process design, and it's taken by the chief.io. And you can see here that like it depends on the company, but you can just optimize for 2 out of these 3 variables. Many internal platform teams, they decide to optimize for maintainability and velocity. That's a sweet spot. But from the other hand, we shouldn't make it in a way that we are going to lose the freedom of the developers. If it happens, kind of we are going to alienate the developers, and kind of instead of reducing the silos, we are going to kind of introduce the silos again. That's not what we want to do in the DevOps world. And the other one is that like there are like other measures that you can take. One of the measures that we took is like weekly meetings with architecture and with also developers to make sure that we are kind of getting their inputs. The other way that some organizations, after having internal platform teams, they just go in and start doing their job. We don't do that. Every member of the team should go out and speak and kind of gather the data, gather the requirements, and come in and give the feedback to the team. In that way, every team member knows what's happening out there in the organization. The next challenge is hiring the right people. Internal platform teams is something new. We cannot go in there and kind of copy the job description of DevOps and ask like, okay, come and join us. Especially that DevOps or SR engineers, they have kind of different job description compared to internal platform teams. We are going to talk about that on the next slide. So these are our experience that like people from single tech background really cannot put themselves sometimes in the other people's shoes. And they are like sometimes saying that this is the way that it should be and this is the only way. Instead, when we have some people coming from like QA, coming from developers especially, they have that empathy to kind of understand what's happening in that side and wanting to write tools or kind of create tools that makes the life of the other party easier. The other one is that we want to have as much diversity as possible. It's very hard to have like a team member that is very good in communication, very good in technical skills, and maybe very good with like cost analysis. It's really hard. What we want to have is a good diversity, that if there is a team member that has good communications, maybe lacking a bit in the technical practices, there are other members that they have good technical practices. In this way, because this team is something that is like inside an organization, and you want these people really go out and ask feedback for what they have done. The other one is having some sort of leadership skills. Because imagine that like you're servicing a lot of other teams and each one of them have diverse needs. You cannot go like one person cannot go out there and ask for like, okay, these are the requirements, gather them. Instead, we should have each one of those people going out there and gathering requirements, asking questions, and proposing the solution in the team, and then kind of honing around it, and again, like start developing it and delivering it. Like the whole life cycle of delivering of a feature set in that like internal platform or a tool, that single person should be able to do it. Maybe not all of it, but most of it we need to do it, because other team members cannot like not do their job and go in and like gather the requirements. But again, to the previous point, because we have diversity, still some people can like do some of the other tasks. And the other one that I see really needed is like understanding how everything fits together and how to view internal tooling. So when we are talking about the infrastructure of a company, especially when they are big, there are a lot of like moving parts in there. And when you want kind of like debug it or have like some questions you want to answer it, you should be able to have that map in your mind and then find out how you can kind of solve that issue. So we cannot go in with somebody that really they want to focus on something that is small. We need somebody that they are willing or maybe hungry to learn more about infrastructure. And the last part, we want somebody that is super fast learner. We are dealing with a lot of technologies. And like they need to really learn in 2 days and kind of deliver in the rest of the week. That happens a lot. Most of our solutions are delivered in a week or so. So they really need to be fast learners. And this is the major DevOps skill categories. Just I have brought it in here for comparison. If somebody wants to hire for a DevOps engineer, they're going to say, okay, have some human aspects, maybe automation skills, especially the automation skills. I'm seeing a lot of it. But if you want to hire, maybe we'll say that we are kind of at ease with automation skills. They can learn about it, but we really need them to know about like technology ecosystem. We need them to have human aspects. We need them to have process and frameworks like mindset. But we are not kind of like focusing much about like automation skills or like tool knowledge or anything in that nature, because at the end of the day, they can learn it. If they have the other parts, we are sure that they can learn this one. The other challenge that we have is involving DevOps. Sorry, involving the ops team. We believe in the ops team because, again, they have that knowledge. But from the other hand, we are introducing a new team, internal platform team. This model hasn't been around for years, and it's pretty new, and companies and organizations, they don't know how to work with it. Sometimes like bringing in this internal platform team brings the ops team to the silo again. That's something that we don't want to have. So we should really have some kind of right balance of abstraction from complexities for ops team too, because we are delivering the product for them also. But from the other hand, we don't want them to be alienated. We want them to be in there from like the beginning of developing of the new feature set. So that needs really good balance, and also, again, good human skills in there. The other one is like drawing a fair responsibility line. Besides that, we are delivering the platforms. We are also SRE, we are also DevOps, and we are kind of driving the practices. Actually, before this, we were SRE and DevOps, and then we evolved to the internal platform team. And now drawing that fair responsibility line, like where it finishes, like our job finishes, and where it's like the job of the ops team, that's another challenge that we had. It was easy to solve with empathy, but at the end of the day, that's a challenge that we face. The other one is knowledge transfer and run books. How do you do that? Like some companies, they used to have kind of like written run books. We started to have video run books, and kind of sometimes embedding the run books inside the alert messages. So this is like whole another topic by itself. That is like kind of like touching a bit on monitoring too, but like this is another challenge that we should really think about, how you're going to this knowledge transfer when there is one team in the middle. And the last one is tracking of the tasks. Again, like we are kind of overlapping what we are going to do when we want to like track the tasks. And some companies, they try to have single board, kind of like Kanban board. Some of them, they are saying that, okay, we track in one of those boards, but still we are going to have separate boards for each team. These are the challenges from the ops side, or involving the ops side. The other challenge that we face is multiple domains of knowledge that is needed. We cannot do the right job without knowing exactly how to do the right job. So for example, we want to do monitoring. We cannot really do monitoring unless we really know like the good practices of monitoring. We don't, if we don't know about Grafana, Prometheus, or what is the difference between these two and Elasticsearch, we cannot really implement a good one. And how we are going to do alerting, or what are the best practices in there, that's another, like completely another domain. Or even like the CI/CD by itself, or deployment, or scalability, reliability, security. All these ones, they are like big domains by themselves. And it's hard for one person to really lead it all, or having one product manager and asking him, or at least like telling him that you should know it all. So we kind of propose something that is better. And that is, I think you remember that I told you each team member should be able to go out there and gather the requirements and all those things. So now that team member can evolve to be an owner for each of these domains. So we can have one owner for the monitoring, we can have one owner for scalability. And these guys can be like, as they say, T-shaped scale of like people, and they are going to know about one domain very well. And from the other hand, they are going to have a good body of knowledge about like DevOps and SRE. So here you can see we have like multiple people in the owner's side or the product manager side. How other companies are implementing it. So that was our story, how we implemented it. But how other companies are implementing it. Let's start with Atlasian. One of those companies that they're leading the way really. So they are following this team topologies book, but also they are adding their own kind of like changes there. They are saying that for making things easier, we are going to have just 4 kind of teams. So they are going to have, like, if you are working in an organization, you have, you know that you can have at least like 2-3 kinds of QA, many developer teams having different structures, and 2-3 kinds of ops team. So these guys, they try to have just 4 of them. We have stream aligned team that is for developers. So this stream aligned team, that's the team that is taking care of delivering a feature or delivering something that is needed for the end user. Platform team is in there to make sure that the delivery is happening very good, that bridge really works for the delivery. We have also a complicated subsystem team. So this complicated subsystem team, these guys, they have good knowledge about one topic. So for example, imagine PubSub or Kafka or event streaming. So you cannot expect developers know about how they work, but they have this like complicated subsystem team that they know how these things work. And whenever it's needed in a team, they can join in and help them in a like consultancy way, and then get back to their team and do their job. So it's like on demand basis, they're going to call people from like complicated subsystem team. And they have enabling team. If you remember like few slides before, I said that you should identify who is going to drive the practice in a company. So in some companies it's SRE, some companies it's DevOps. Here it's like enabling team. So this enabling team is the one that is going in there and driving the good practices in a company, driving the performance or like delivering the code in the best way in a company. The next company that we are going to see is Cross, that implements the platform teams. The good thing about this one that really caught my attention is that they are kind of based on OpenShift container platform. So they are saying that we have Kubernetes-based layer, then we are going to add to it like QA capabilities, and then build and release capabilities, and security capabilities, and observability capabilities, and then package it all and do it as a self-service portal. So that's the way that they are delivering this like platform tooling to the organization. Again, like who is like delivering the change in here is mainly this platform team. So this platform evolution kind of is going to be driven by the platform team. And it's like stream, but they're going to for sure speak with the stream aligned team to make sure that they're going to deliver it in the best way. And they're also treating the platform as a product. Okay, that's almost the end. And the resources. So these are the awesome resources. This Humanitech that you can see the URLs in here, that's the next month's speaker. They are leading the way in here. I have also Atlasian in here, the chief, and the Pendo. And the last resource, maybe my YouTube channel, if you're interested in. The subscribers are like 50 more, but yeah, you can check it out. If it caught your attention, you can subscribe. And yep, that's pretty much it. I'm ready for the questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Saman. Really appreciate that. Anybody with questions, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. Or, if it gets too busy, or if you are shy, go ahead and toss something into the chat. So one thing I'm wondering about, oh, go ahead.
Perfect. No, go ahead. I'll go after you.
No, I always just fill space. So you're up.
Hey, thank you very much, Saman. It was a very interesting presentation. Thanks, Steve, for hosting this. Saman, I have a question. which is more around the organizational changes that that it involves, right? Based on your experience, how do you introduce? How do you reorganize the team, and how do you introduce that change within a large organization? Because it means reorganizing the teams, introducing a new technology. What are some of the challenges you've seen from the organizational and leadership perspective?
Yeah, that's really one of the biggest challenges that we have still. And that is like, if you really want to get the highest feedback out of this internal platform team, you should really go in there and try to basically change the whole organization and kind of like change the dev practices, change the QA practices, and all those things, because they all go together. The way that Atlassian has done it is the perfect way. That is the suggested way, but we couldn't do it. And we haven't started it yet, because even like reaching to this place, although we reached it like organically rather than the way that like kind of pushing for it, it was like this. We were just doing our task, and all of a sudden we saw this like DevOps report, and I saw that this is like the main team, and kind of we were almost 50% there to be internal platform team, kind of pushed more to there to make sure that like we are completely there, to make like adding self-service is one of those concepts. And one of the things that is happening in DevOps is that these practices, they are not just practices. There is like a big philosophy behind that one. And here the philosophy is self-service for the developers and the QA and all those things. We should make other people in the organization believe this one, and then we can maybe deliver it. If they are not buying to this like philosophy, it's really hard to kind of say that internal platform team, that's what we have, accept it. Usually they will not accept.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to kind of dovetail off that, the acceptance angle, because I think that that's huge, especially in larger organizations where you tend to have a lot of options, right? And it might be actually easier for you to go build your own thing, or just use a different service, sign up for something else, even sign up for the same thing under, a different credit card, because the whole funding situation is messy. What did you have to do to kind of create the on-ramp to the internal developer platform? Like, is it documentation or dedicated training, or is there a tool that people install and gives them a bunch of command line things? Like, what was what did the kind of onboarding experience look like, and what does it look like now? Sorry, onboarding when you started, and what does it look like now?
So when I started, actually, it was all being done by the ops team. Even like the DevOps was like out in like some corners, they were not doing much. After I started as like SRE engineer in here, and current practice is in a way that like we are not writing our own internal platform tool, like we don't have that UI, but we are leveraging other companies' UIs to deliver that experience. So that's what we are doing now. And the part that you talked about, like having your own credit card in there, yeah, that happened to us too. Like I put my credit card in there to kind of like at least show the concept works sometime, to get the buy-in. But now currently it works. Like I can say that beforehand it was really messy. Like they were like opening up the tickets. What else? Like they never like spoke with DevOps at all. It was like a big process, like goes to the ops and ops brings that one to the DevOps, because like the department also was different. But currently what happens is that there's like a dedicated channel to speak with developers. We have almost monthly workshops for onboarding people to different platforms. And kind of we have a lot of documentation, especially for people that they are the domain experts. So if you have DBA, you want some kind of documentation especially catered for them. For dev, we want that one. So that's the experience now that we have. If you want to compare, the thing that I want to emphasize in here is comparing the team size. So I can say that beforehand they were like doing this with 10 people. Now it's about like 3, 4, maximum 5 sometimes. So you can see like we are doing the amount of the task and the job has almost like tripled. Minimum it has been tripled, but the team size has like halved. So that's how you can see the impact of this internal platform team in there.
That's huge. That's awesome. I love the fact that it's like shrunk, the team size shrunk over time. That is I think an awesome metric for these internal platform teams to measure, is like, do we actually need less people to do more things or not? Because I hear a lot of companies, they're like, we can't hire enough people. And that's always going to be true, right? But
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, you're in a position where you can automate so many things. And the answer is not usually throwing people at the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That was the promise of SRE, I think, that they were saying that if the amount of the job like doubles, you're not going to double your SRE team. But with the internal platform team, you can promise that the team is going to shrink really, and there will be nothing to do for like many people soon. So yeah, and also these people are like, we like as DevOps, SRE, internal platform engineers, we are really expensive for the companies. They don't want to really hire us.
That's very true.
Yep.
We have any other questions?
So, hi, this is Jagmeet here. I take care of accounting platform for a big bank. We are implementing this internal platform team, but yeah, I think today's talk was very informative. Not a question, but thanks, Saman, for this. Because when we formed the internal platform team, we got someone. So our objective was a little bit different. We figured out that we were generating value in 18 months, and we wanted to reduce the value generation time by putting in more engineering into the stuff. Um, so we bought a QA person, we got a solution architect, we bought a principal engineer, uh, and a product manager for the platform together to say, okay, create a book of work. But I think we forgot the mix where we need to get SMEs for, let's say, Docker, for automation testing or integration testing packed, or we were trying to get our own people learn on these skills. But from your talk, it's very useful that we can see that how getting these SMEs could help. Somebody who knows Kubernetes, Kafka, packed, Docker, it could expedite the process.
Yeah, that's true. Just adding one thing to there, and that is, maybe you can bring in like SMEs in there or subject matter experts in there, but we cannot really like accelerate the process. That's my experience so far. The reason behind that is that there is a learning curve for the whole organization, not just for a team, not just for a single person, but for a whole organization, that how they want to like work it with this one. That's like a hard work that we should be doing in there. And if we do it very fast, sooner or later, you're going to see people exhausted and they're going to opt out of this initiative. And sometimes like you will see managers coming and knocking your door and saying that, yeah, I don't want you really do this thing, because like that employee that he really complains, like he doesn't like this thing. That happened to me really. So that's the part that you should, I would say that stick with bringing in something very slowly but steadily, and always having this temperature check on everybody in the team and also in the organization to make sure that you are not going to bring anybody to the boiling temperature, and so that they are going to opt out. It really takes time because it's like a big change for organizations. Even like I have seen that like from sysadmins to DevOps, it's like a big change. DevOps to SRE, big change. And kind of SRE to now the internal platform teams, again, like it's almost the same. And how what they're going to do with their old team, like if they had SRE, what they're going to do with this kind of like DevOps, if they had like DevOps. So these are the things that they should take into account. It takes time for them to digest in. And those people that kind of, I told you that we shrunk, we never fired anybody. They kind of just found maybe a better job and they left, and we didn't see that need to hire back.
Yeah. No, I get in. I don't know other places, but yeah, today market is very buoyant. I think job is not the primary concern that is in people's mind. I think the primary concern is uh, how to digitize that journey faster, because I think COVID has put everybody on some sort of digitization. So a lot of these things, people got time to think about these things as well.
Yeah. But Steve, what is your experience? I know that you're helping a lot of companies. What is your experience in there?
Pardon, sorry, I didn't get that.
No, I'm asking Steve that what is his experience?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. No?
Yeah.
Is that going to work? There we go. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's very hard to expect people to change because it's not their responsibility, right? Or their primary responsibility. The primary responsibility is keep things working, right? And there's always enough work to keep people busy. In my experience, there's always tons of stuff to do. So then asking people to rebuild the airplane while you're in midair, that's hard work, and it needs to be really well supported. And so I think this is why I'm such a big fan of sort of stepping back and looking at, okay, well, where can we save some time? Where can we simplify things so that we get some breathing room that we could dedicate towards some other initiative, right? Whether it's running an experiment, or we look at the value stream and try and find some opportunities to simplify some things so that we can run our team with fewer people and spin up a new team, right? Spin up a platform team that's made up of people from a few other teams, perhaps, or maybe we structure the team temporarily based on shared resources. Like realistically, it's really hard to like reorganize people. So in some cases I've seen success with like, it's uncomfortable and it has to be temporary, but the idea of like 3 days a week you'll be on this team, and then 2 days a week you'll be on this platform team, and then eventually that will be a permanent thing. But while you're sort of like spinning this up and like creating this operating model, you have to be conscious of the fact that you don't just have brand new people doing this. You're taking people from what they're doing and moving them on to something else. And that involves a lot of learning too, which is stressful unless you have a very supportive environment, right? It's very easy for people to feel like they're failing because they're learning. And so you have to be good at giving people space to fail and learn, and encouraging them to share when things aren't working, because it's easy for a team to have a mandate like spin up this new platform. Sometimes they don't have a product manager or anyone who's acting as a customer, and they are hiding the fact that nothing is working because the expectation is, if they come from ops, nothing should break, right? We don't want to hear about anything failing. And we don't talk about challenges the same way that we talk about challenges in the product or the development space. So I think, the culture has to open up a lot, and there has to be this psychological safety.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
How many folks feel free to jump in or jump in the chat. Like, how many people have an internal platform team instead of or in addition to like a shared services or like an IT team or an SRE team, like a dedicated team that's not self-service focused or product focused, either way. So I'm always curious to hear like how many folks are spinning up teams like this. Maybe Cheryl knows.
I
Cheryl
don't
sees a
know
lot
the
of teams.
answer to your question, just to be clear. But I actually had sort of a follow-on because nobody seemed to have an answer. I wanted to ask Saman if, thank you for the presentation, by the way, it's very interesting. But at what point do you think an organization is ready to have such a platform team? Is it the size of the organization? Is it the number of applications that they're developing and or supporting? Anything in your experience that you've run into that's kind of the best metric to use?
Maybe I'll go first, and we'll ask Steve too, because he has seen a lot of organizations, and I have implemented it just in the current one. But I think the main driving force for us was that we had a lot of like development teams, and they were like, we had a lot of teams that they wanted to deliver some kind of value to the customers in different ways, and each one of them, they were working with different technologies, and we couldn't just have very standard tooling for it. We couldn't just say that this is the only pipeline, just go and work with it. So we needed to really build something that kind of encompasses all of the technologies that they're going to be out there. That's how we saw the need to kind of have this self-service thing for all the developers. And all, actually it's not just, I can say like about like 10 to 11 like teams, different like developer teams. So that's the main need that we saw. But let's see, what is your experience in there?
I think, I mean, it depends is the most overused answer of all time. But here's what I think it depends on. To me, I think it's a good strategy to investigate when you have people tempted to kind of spin up the same thing in multiple spaces. So if you've got, you have a CI/CD pipeline, and all of a sudden someone wants to build their own, and it's for a reason that isn't just vanity or not invented here syndrome. If it's because the CI/CD platform isn't meeting my needs, right, and I need something that will help me do what I need to do, or you have those separate departments who are kind of autonomous, they're all kind of creating things on their own, but there's a lot of commonality between these things. Like there's a lot of sort of like ebb and flow of this stuff where it can be useful to have diversity of options and autonomy and have the teams kind of define their own CI/CD process. But then I think it's really important to like periodically step back and say, okay, well, what are we doing across the organization, and what's working, what's not working, and what do we have in common across all these teams? And then you can kind of rein things in and say, okay, well, everyone's using X. And so if we were to centralize it somewhere and have someone own it, then we would reduce that management burden across the board from all these other teams.
What teams do you think would have the visibility required to make those sorts of decisions? Traditionally, or from what you've seen?
I think it should be kind of organic way of like kind of going from like DevOps to SRE and SRE to these like internal platform teams. And I think SRE or the product manager of the SRE or lead of the SRE is the one that really sees what's happening in the organization, sees those patterns, sees those, like speaks with all different like dev managers, QA manager, or like with execs, and sometimes the ops manager, and kind of identifies these patterns. That's I think that's that person that can lead this way toward the platform teams. And the other one is that they cannot all of a sudden say that because like they don't have any experience running any DevOps or Ops, all of a sudden they come in and say that, yeah, we need internal platform teams, let's build it. According to my experience, we have built on top of many layers of like experience and tooling and knowing what's happening in there, and just we did it like in a bite size kind of thing. And all of a sudden we said that, okay, next step to be really efficient is internal platform.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that, Saman. Like I think looking at the backlog, or not the backlog, either the backlog or the completed tickets from whoever's handling all of that work right now, will give you an indication. So you step away and sort of analyze that and find the commonalities. What are the things that we're constantly doing that we could perhaps automate? But I think to do that, you need an outside sort of customer perspective. And either it means that, some lead, maybe the team lead or someone with some, a lot of experience and visibility into all these different activities, puts on a product owner hat and says like, okay, if I were creating a product out of this, I want to find out what the product should be. So I can look at these tickets and find out these are needs, these are customer needs that I can design solutions for. And that's kind of like a formalized approach, but I think that gets things going in the right direction and moves you from like reactive to proactive, right? Like the migration to a product team is kind of moving you from reactive to proactive. And I think that's what I like to see, is somebody with product ownership perspective kind of take a look at what's going on right now through the product lens, and then forming a roadmap that will start to move the team in that direction of like building out something that prevents the shoulder taps and the tickets coming in favor of providing like a product or service that will address that need. And I don't think that that's a size thing. It's certainly a complexity thing when things start to get too complicated or too complex for people to figure out what's going on, or the whoever's doing the work right now is just completely overburdened and can't see a way out.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that I have seen, like for these jumps to happen is from sysadmin to DevOps. Or by DevOps, I don't mean practice of DevOps as a whole. I mean DevOps as like the DevOps, that person that they hire for DevOps. And usually in the job description of the person that they hire for DevOps is automation. So for that jump to happen from sysadmin to DevOps person, that management team or execs, they should believe in automation instead of doing the manual work or all those things. From the DevOps to SRE, they should believe in having systems instead of automation. So automation kind of brings the complexity from one place to another place. So if you want to have in the concept of scripts, you're writing the commands in your Linux shell. With the script, you're having those commands in the script. Still, like it's automation, but it's like you have changed the place of the complexity from one place to another place, so that the script can break always. From that script to something that doesn't break, you need a system that abstracts all those complexities. For example, we can say Helm. Helm charts is a way to kind of abstract that complexity. The next stage, I think, from SRE to internal platform teams is to abstract the whole kind of like infrastructure. Not only just one tooling, not only one thing, but abstracting the whole infrastructure. And I think this shift of the philosophy and viewpoint should happen by somebody that is leading the whole infrastructure or kind of the practice of that organization. that person, if you want to have that ideal ideal profile of that person should go out there, kind of like attend these meetups, read a lot of books, try the things, and he's not afraid of being fired. And it really happens in organizations, believe me. Like there were like 2 times that I was really afraid of it, but unless you are not making that risk, you are not going to reaping the reward. And the reward is you are going to have less work and more. It's better to say that instead of less work, more organized work as somebody that is leading this one. And not only you, but everybody else in the organization. When I started, we used to do at least 3 to 4 hours of messaging per day for answering developer questions. It's about 3 weeks now that we have 0 bugs, 0 questions. So you can see how your work is now organized instead of just getting people tapping on your shoulder and asking the questions.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for your answers. Just really curious on this topic. And I know we're out of time, so I'll just throw one more question out there to consider, is that, over time, you said your team went, I don't know, I think you said from 9 to 5. So you drastically reduced organically the size of the team. Any thoughts as to down the road, the effort to maintain and update the platform? Because now you have to consider that as well, because you're not, you're going to move on and your colleagues are going to move on and new people are going to come in, and then you have a whole new problem.
Yeah, that's the issue. That like when we are having this internal platform team, it's like you are having that application like Instagram that everybody is working with and everybody is familiar with. And you cannot have somebody just come in and just say that, yeah, I've moved like this button from here to here. It's going to bring in a lot of like issues and complexities. So we should have some kind of guidelines, although we haven't developed it. But we have a core team that they really believe in like these philosophies. So we really like follow the philosophies rather than following these the practices. We believe philosophies are the first one. But that's true. Like what happens if like the main core team, they move on? What happens? I haven't thought about it really. Like that's something that we should really incorporate in.
That's a great point. I think the other piece that I was thinking of was the scaling aspect. Like as it adopts new capabilities and gains more influence and the company scales up, all of that grows. And I think that the approach that I would like to see teams adopt is, splitting where you see domain separations, right? So if you've got infrastructure provisioning, for instance, and that seems to be a major bottleneck, maybe you split the team and one team creates infrastructure management as a product in the platform portfolio. And then you start to build out this portfolio that's targeting the areas where you're seeing either increased demand, increased complexity, increased constraint. So if things are slowing down because of this one area of the platform or one capability in the platform, and kind of dividing it as a domain exercise. And then you can part those out to teams. And you can even do that proactively, right? So you can do that within a single team, and you can have sort of like look at your backlog in terms of, okay, lots of our work and time is going into this one aspect of the platform, and that can be an early indicator that you should think about carving it out. But I think that trying to keep the team small is a really good idea, because we know that like 4 or 5 person teams are the fastest, most productive, effective teams. And so if you can carve the work out by domain, keeping that team size as small as possible, and maybe you share a product owner or something like that, because your bottleneck is really the technical implementation or something like that, that's fine. I think it's just It's just a question of where's your bottleneck and what do you need to try to mitigate or facilitate. But you're very correct. Sure. Oh, Saman, last comment to you. I will leave you for the last word.
Oh yes. No, you will have the last word. Just 1 minute for one thing, and that is when they want to implement like something. I don't believe that for infrastructure you need a big team at all. Like I agree that with the current structure of the companies, you may need some big teams because everybody that is like in the last 15 years, 20 years that company had a history, they came in and built their own way of doing the things. But when you have the standard, or when you have these platforms, or when you have that like abstraction and systems in place, you can really give answer to different teams. Really, the team that kind of develops UI is going to use the same system as the team that is going to produce the AI, as the team that is going to produce the API. So all of them all of them can use the same system. So at the end of the day, probably you're not going to increase your the number of the people or the complexity of your platform. You're just going to standardize, carve out the complexity, and then bring the features to the platform.
Awesome. That seems like a great place to leave it. Thank you very much, Saman. Thank you, everybody who joined, everyone who participated in the conversation. Really appreciate that dialogue. You are what makes this community vibrant